This is definitely a serve that you need. So I was asked to do a video about the backhand serve, and I thought it was actually a really good one to do. I think it's quite common serve amongst the table tennis population. It can be one that can be a little bit easier to develop, and so we're going to run through various aspects of the backhand serve. It's a really common tactic to use side spin as an element of difficulty in your serves. That can create opportunities, people can miscontrol it, and then we can take advantage of their weak return. Now, it's quite common to be able to make the ball move from left to right, as I'm looking at it with our pendulum serve. But it's also really important that we're able to make the ball move from right to left as well. Some players will find one way easier than the other, but we have to have both options available so that we can find that weakness and take advantage of it. Now, we have some other options. There are reverse serve or the hook serve that will also make that spin. These can be quite tricky techniques. So for me, the backhand serve is a really good option to be able to make that ball move from right to left. And you'll see the backhand serve throughout all levels. You'll see it at that new level, that intermediate level, and even at the elite level. And the players that stick out to me are Zoran Primorac and Jean-Michel Save, who both use their backhand serve right at the highest level. So if it's good enough for them, then it's good enough for all of us. Backhand serve's a really great serve if you're a little bit more of a backhand dominant player, or if you're a little bit more of a 50-50 player and you're happy to take attacks on the backhand and forehand. It's just going to allow for a little bit more opportunity to follow up with your backhand attack. So if you're a bit more of a backhand player, this might be a good serve for you. Even if you're a forehand player, it could be an option for you. Again, if you're struggling with the reverse technique or the hook technique, then this could be your ticket to getting that ball swinging from right to left. Now, there are some common errors that we need to be aware of, and we just need to make sure that we're not falling into those same traps. One is declaring the direction of the serve. So sometimes people will step across to create this angle. They might step across here to create the other angle, and then we're giving away the direction of our serve when we're starting. So it's fine to start from here, it's fine to start from here, but can we serve with variety? Otherwise, the play can become a little bit too predictable. Another common thing I see here is people squeezing the handle a little bit too tight and creating this sharp angle on the wrist. And then it's very difficult to get good control and good spin on the ball. Okay, we don't want it super loose either, but just avoid having that sharp angle and squeezing the bat too tightly. And finally, just being aware of the angles that you're creating and that you're recovering. It's quite common to use this serve from the forehand side. And when doing that, we can leave gaps open on the table. So we do need to be aware of where we're serving from and the angles of play that we need to cover afterwards. So just keep an eye on those three things when you're starting to practice this serve. Okay, a real benefit of this serve is the grip. Okay, so I tend to use more of a playing grip, and that means that once I've executed the serve, I'm not having to change back into my playing grip, so it saves me time. Now, I tend to use this serve a little bit more from the right-hand side, as I mentioned, and if I'm square here, so I'm facing the table, I tend to drop my left leg back slightly. That opens my body up, and that allows me to utilize this space next to me here as my backswing. If I'm square on, then I'm in the way, or I'm going to have to resort to pulling across the ball this way. Whereas I want to have some forward momentum too. So left leg drops back, that opens the body up, and that makes this swing a little bit easier. Now, there's a bit of personal preference in this part here. I tend to move my bat underneath my arm, and then my bat comes down and around. So I'm using this sort of semicircle motion in the technique. Some players might be more comfortable with the bat above the free arm, and then the same coming down and around. Okay, so have a little play around with which start is more comfortable for you and what allows you to come down on the ball but also bring the bat up afterwards. So this is the technique of the serve to begin with. So I'm not squeezing the bat too tight. I'm dropping the head of the racket down, so I'm creating this sort of shape here. And the line of the bat there is following the angle of my arm. Okay, so there's no stress on my wrist at this point. Yeah, this is the shape sometimes that happens. Yeah, we've got this shape here. Now there's a sharp angle on my wrist. And now it's a little bit awkward to serve, although that wasn't a bad one. And then I'm trying to contact around net height, roughly 2/3 up the table, and with a light brushing contact. I want to try and avoid that thick contact. And that's allowing me to get at least 2 bounces on my serve. If I want it a little bit deeper, I can either bring that bounce back slightly, or I can go for a slightly thicker contact. But if I go too hard, then sometimes I might be in danger of that ball drifting long. Okay, so first variation on this serve then, what I'm going to try and start with here is creating backspin. So at some point I need to have my bat a little bit flatter and I need to be coming underneath the ball. It's good for me to try and aim for the leading edge here. That's going to be moving a little bit more, a little bit quicker. It doesn't matter too much. If the ball's landing in these areas here, as long as we get a good contact, we will create some good spin. But to mentally aim for the edge of the bat is a good way to ensure a bit more quality on the serve. Okay, so my backswing is underneath my arm, and then as I'm coming forwards, I want into contact here at the end of the technique. And once I've made that contact, then my bat is going to lift upwards after. You can see that the ball's much slower. I'm getting lots of bounces on that serve, and then there's a sharp turn off to the side. That's a good indication that I've got my backspin as well as some side spin as well. Now the lift afterwards isn't essential to create the spin, but it is important to have when we start doing our topspin serve. Okay, the topspin variation then, the same setup. So we want the bat to go underneath the arm. We're going to move downwards again, but this time we don't want to contact here. We want to contact just a little bit later on this pull up. Okay, so it's that pull up here that's going to create the topspin. Okay, a slight difference as well is that I'm now bringing that bounce on my side just a little bit closer. Again, topspin wants to jump forwards, so if I pitch it in the same position as the backspin one, then that's likely to just drift long and perhaps give my opponent an opportunity to make an attack. So by letting the ball drop just a little bit lower, bringing that bounce back a little bit closer to me, can just ensure that I'm getting those 2 bounces. And just for comparison, here's 2 backspin and 2 topspin. See if you can spot the difference. It's not the type of serve that's going to create massive mistakes from your opponent. The spins are quite close together. There's a little bit of backspin, there's a little bit of topspin. But if they do push the topspin ball, that is going to create a high return, and that's going to create an opportunity. So there's some other techniques that can perhaps force mistakes and quite severe mistakes. This one is probably more just trying to create opportunities for a stronger follow-up. And the reason I tend to serve into this forehand half for a right-hander is, generally speaking, people are a little bit weaker into this forehand half. So again, we're using that knowledge of percentage to try and take advantage of that weakness. That doesn't mean everyone. Some people are stronger on that short forehand, but we can start out there, give them a test and see if that's going to be effective or not. So by that ball traveling into the forehand and moving away from your opponent just means they have to open that wrist up. It's a little bit harder to control the ball when the wrist has to come back like this, and it's that can hinder their control and can allow you an opportunity to make an attack. And a really good serve to go along with this short forehand serve is a long fast serve into the opposite corner. Now what can sometimes happen with this one is this is our position for our short forehand one. And when we go for this one, sometimes we'll end up squaring up and our body ends up facing that corner a little bit too much. So it's really important when we're practicing this one that we're aware of what our position is when we're serving short into the forehand. So this is my position for that short forehand serve. Now I need to maintain this position for the long fast serve into the backhand. So some little details that are different here. This time I'm having to let the ball drop much lower, trying to make sure that that bounce is much closer to my side, and it's that's going to allow me to create a little bit more pace. And rather than coming underneath, I'm going to be hitting much more of the back of the ball at this low contact point. Now this is how I use my backhand serve. I step across, I go into this corner, I use that as a little bit of variety. That doesn't mean that I don't do other things. I do sometimes use it from this side. I do sometimes serve long and fast into the forehand. Yeah, I get a feeling for the variety that's needed. If I feel that someone's got used to it or they're expecting it in a certain place, then I might change. Okay, but this is how I find it beneficial to execute this serve. If you prefer to, there's absolutely no reason why you can't use this serve from this corner. There's no reason you can't use it from the middle. There's no reason you can't use it from a really wide position. So long as we're aware of the advantages and the disadvantages, you can use it however you wish. So there's no hard and fast rules as to how to do this, but this is how I've seen benefit over the years, and this is how I try to implement my tactics with the backhand serve. So if you're really struggling with the reverse pendulum or the hook serve, the backhand serve is a really good alternative to add some variety to your service game. And just before you go, a little challenge for you all. Put your answers in the comments. I'm going to serve one serve. It's either going to be backspin or it's going to be topspin, and you're not going to see the reaction on the other side of the table. So let me know in the comments, is it backspin or topspin? For the past 6 months, I've been coaching online. I've worked with over 30 people from all around the world, from the US, from Sweden, from the Netherlands, from Mexico, from England, of course, as well as a whole host of other countries. I'm currently revamping my online offers, and they'll hopefully be ready for January 2024. So if anyone's interested in working with me online and developing your service game, then drop me an email and I'll add you to my contact list and I'll reach out in January 2024. Okay, make sure you're watching one of these 2 videos and see you at the next one.